Hi, my name is Alicia Foreman, and tonight we're going to look at some of the presidential candidates in 2016 and what they spent um, on their plans to become president. Uh, we're going to look at only tree maps and heat maps, so there's a bit going on here. Let's look at the first one, the amount spent by each candidate for their promotion. And we have Bernie Sanders at $18 billion. Wow. And Hillary Clinton at $50 billion. Wow, what that money could go towards would be phenomenal. In this tree map, you can see that there are different size boxes and shading for the heat to kind of show the differences between them. The smaller the box, the less that candidate spent. If we scroll over on them, we can see the distribution amount that they spent and the file numbers. So there's even some down here, Johnson, Gary, Gilmore, James. It's just kind of interesting. But you can definitely see who are the big spenders, and I cannot believe that it's $50 billion. That is crazy. 50 billion there. All right, this is the amount spent by each candidate in each state. Amount spent by each candidate in each state. I feel like it's all of the candidates added together per state. So in Virginia, this would be the most amount that was spent, would be in the state of Virginia. And Washington, D.C., and New York, and then Ohio, Texas, California. I don't have it here, but I know that there's a difference between swing states and generally states that will pick a party. So I know there's some information about that. So maybe these are more of the swing states. I don't know. Texas is very Republican. Maybe that depends on which candidate it is as well. But if you could influence a state, I think that you would spend more money there to have them pick you as the presidential candidate. And what's the least amount? Wow, so many down here. North Dakota, South Dakota. I suppose the less amount of people in the population, the less money you would spend in that state as well. It's kind of interesting. Let's see. The amount spent in each state by each candidate. So, interesting. So, some states are... Okay, so here we have how much each candidate spent, I believe, in support of the presidential election. And Washington, D.C., again, is the most. So if we back up here, you can see D.C. takes a big portion, and Virginia takes a big portion, and New York is here. Let's see what that compares to here. Virginia is a huge section, New York is a huge section, and D.C. is a huge section. Then each one of these down here are all contributors, and how much they contributed you can see by the shading and in that state and the big areas that they contributed. So that's quite interesting. And there's a lot that didn't even show. Amount spent in the top 30 categories of spending by each candidate. So Hillary Clinton, top 30 categories of spending. Hillary Clinton and Benjamin Carlson, Donald Trump, spent $1 million, $2 million in a different category. So I like heat maps. I think that they're fun. Amount spent in the top 30 cities by each candidate. So New York City obtained the most amount of funding. Interesting. These are some big cities in the world, in the United States. Columbus, Austin, Texas. Let's see. Little Rock, Washington, San Francisco, Atlanta, Georgia, Dallas, Texas, Chicago, Fort Worth, Texas, Houston, Texas. A lot of them in Texas there. Phoenix, Arizona, Memphis, Tennessee. I don't know if that's Bellevue, Nebraska. I highly doubt it. Las Vegas. So that's pretty cool. And here we have a heat map of the days in each month. I changed my heat map. I reversed it to show the least amount has the darkest on this heat map. And then the lightest is the most spent. So I liked it darker personally, but before it was really, really pale all over. Now you can see that the least amount has the darkest boxes. So I thought that was kind of cool, make it different than everyone else. January, February, March, April, and then the days of the month. So the first of the month, not a lot of spending. The 4th had the highest amount of spending, the 16th, 23rd. It's kind of interesting. In the spring, so we're talking January, March, February, in the beginning of the month, the mid-month, and then towards the end. So I think that's kind of cool in 2016 for their candidate presidential election. So that's my little tidbit of information about the heat maps and tree maps that we put together for assignment 9, part 1. So thank you for listening. I appreciate it.